Advocacy. We want to speak up. That's what lawyers do. We sometimes need to step on a few toes, and we'll do that too. I'm a Bucks County lawyer, and things are a little different here in Philadelphia, which I found out in my first case. A good friend of mine, Brian Mass. Brian, are you here? He gave me permission to tell this story. He's the owner of this building, and it was his partnership with Spirit and Truth that developed this building. It was an abandoned warehouse about 5 years ago that the church basically was given because it's not really worth anything, because the cost of repairing it or fixing it up was worth more than the value of the property. So as Brian was putting his deal together, he talked to me about it, and he said, "Pete, there's this salvage yard next door that's operating on our property. Can you get them off?" And I said, "Well, sure, if they're on your property, we can just file an ejectment action." Easy enough. All of that stuff that you see is our property. So we did a survey of the property. We could see that the property line went from about where that middle of that mud pile was, and they were operating on our property. So Brian set up a meeting with the owner. I went over in my suit, introduced myself, handed him my business card, and said, "Nice to meet you." And he says, "I'm not so sure it's nice to meet you." And I said, "Well, here's the plan." We left him with the plan, and we pointed out where the boundary line was, and we asked him nicely if he would move his things off of our property. He said, "Sue me." Yeah. And I said, "Well, that's something I can do." So we sued him. It was interesting. I heard after I filed the suit that they had threatened the previous lawyer who tried to get involved in it. He threatened my client during the proceedings, and when we finally won the case and had a judgment against them, which they appealed, we got that finalized. We sent the sheriff out. We had trouble getting the sheriff to serve the writ of ejectment. And we found out that when the sheriff served the papers, he threatened the sheriff. You were there for that, Kim? Am I exaggerating? No. Okay. That doesn't happen. At least I haven't had a case in Bucks County where that happens. But the sheriff did, really at risk to his job. He told us that the guy said, "You know, you're going to lose your job if you do this." And he did it anyway. So we're thankful for that. And that's the area that's being paved now. So that's just an example of some advocacy that we do to try to make a difference in the neighborhood. Now, more recently, we had another issue with the salvage yard. We had a client whose car was stolen right from in front of his house by a car thief. The client kind of took the matter in his own hands and came to realize that the thief had sold the car to a tow truck company. It was like a $2,500 car, and it was sold for $500. The tow truck company towed it over to the salvage yard, who paid him $750 for it, which, you know, it had a punched out ignition and the window had been smashed in. Maybe the car's been stolen, and it was smashed. They took it for scrap. So we're going to try to do something about that. We don't think that our neighbors should be an outlet for stolen vehicles in the neighborhood. So when we see something, particularly a case that we feel we can make a difference, that's really what we want to try to do.